What's going on, guys? It's Garrett Fields with Nelson Financial Planning here. In my previous video, we went over call options and how they worked. So in today's video, as promised, we're going to take a look at put options. Now let's not waste any time and get right into the story. Again, let's say there's a guy named Jerry, and Jerry has 100 oranges. And each orange is worth $10 for a total of $1,000 worth of oranges. Now, in this situation, let's say Jerry's not sure if he wants to sell his oranges, but he's concerned that the price of oranges might fall in the future. And let's say there's a second person named Megan, and she really wants to buy oranges from Jerry. So, Jerry will give Megan $20 for the rights to sell 100 oranges to Megan over the next 30 days for $10 an orange. At this point, one of three things can happen. The first thing that could happen is prices of oranges could drastically increase to $30 an orange, or more. This is just an example. At this point, Jerry would disregard the contract and try to sell the oranges to Megan for $30 an orange. Now, because Jerry's disregarding the contract, Megan is under no obligation to buy the oranges from Jerry. And also, Jerry is under no obligation to sell the oranges to Megan. He could sell them to a third party. But let's just say Megan agrees to buy the oranges. Now in this situation, Jerry would go home with $3,000 minus the $20 he gave Megan, and Megan would go home with 100 oranges plus the $20 from the contract that was not exercised. The second situation that could happen is the price of oranges could go down to $5 or lower, again, just an example. At this point, Jerry would exercise his right to sell the 100 oranges to Megan for $10 an orange. Because Megan is under the contract, she has no choice but to buy the oranges at $10 an orange from Jerry. Now in this situation, Jerry would go home with $1,000 minus the $20 he gave Megan for the contract. And Megan would go home with 100 oranges and the $20 from the exercised contract. The third and final situation is the price of oranges could remain unchanged. In this situation, oranges are still going for $10 an orange. At this point, Jerry could either exercise his right to sell the oranges to Megan, or he could just simply sell them to Megan or a third party. Now, in this situation, Jerry would go home with $1,000 minus the $20 he gave Megan for the contract, and Megan would go home with 100 oranges and the $20 from the contract that was or was not executed. It wouldn't affect the amount of money that either party got. It's important to keep in mind that in all these situations, Jerry is under no obligation to sell the oranges at any point in time. He has simply spent $20 to ensure that if he decides to sell his 100 oranges over the next 30 days, he will get at least $10 an orange. But Megan, on the other hand, has no choice if the contract is exercised but to buy the oranges for $10 an orange, no matter what happens to the price, even if the price of oranges go to zero. This is how put options work. The only difference is instead of trading money for oranges, people trade them for stocks in different companies like Amazon, Tesla, Netflix, or Google. Now, keep in mind, this is a very basic breakdown of how put options work. You can get into much more advanced tactics, such as cash secured puts, the iron butterfly, or even front spreads. And also keep in mind that just like with call options, you can be on either side of the transaction. You can be a Megan or a Jerry. Also, like call options, remember that you can lose your entire portfolio or even owe people money. That's why it's so important to do your own research or to talk to a professional, particularly one that's a certified financial fiduciary. And if you're having trouble finding one of those, just know that everyone on the Nelson Financial Planning team is a certified financial fiduciary. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to slide into our DMs, shoot us an email, or give us a call at 407-629-6477. We're always here to help. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and invest consistently.